Hello, this is TurboDog702 for the Castlevania Symphony of the Night Any Percent tutorial. In this section of the tutorial, I will be discussing the reversed shift line relic skip, or RSL. We will be using this technique in order to bypass having to get all of the Dracula body parts, the relics inside of the second castle, to open up the clock room. This is one of the biggest sequence breaks in the game. It competes with the Richter skip in saving time inside of the game. And it's very important that you learn how to do this if you are looking to become competitive inside of the any percent route. So let's hop right in. So this is the position that you're going to find yourself in at the end of my last video. It'll put you in a position to be able to do the relic skip with fair ease. So what we're trying to do is, much like the death skip, we are trying to open up a reverse shift line. When we open up the reverse shift line and go into this next room, it's going to try to eject us to the boundaries of the screen on the left, and since we'll be out of bounds, it's going to freak out and basically eject us downward into the final guard room. Now, in order to do the reverse shift line here, I'm going to talk to you about some cues that you can use in order to make it a little bit easier on yourself. But hitting the reverse shift line is only the first part of this. You have to keep that in mind. Once you get inside of the ceiling, like once you initiate the reverse shift line, you're going to have to do a very well-timed bat transformation, and then you're going to have to do a certain amount of infinite wing smash repetitions in order to get into the save room. So just to go ahead and show you kind of what it looks like normally, I'm going to attempt to hit it at least. There's two ways that you can do this. You can either like edge forward like I'm doing here, or there is a setup for it, which I will show you as well. But for now, I'm going to try to do it pretty much the way I know how to do it. I'm even going to maybe do a little pause buffering to try and make it a little easier on myself. By the way, you can pause buffer this trick, or at least certain portions of it, to make it a little easier. Okay, see, now I'm in the roof right now. With some well done wing smashes, I can basically get into the final save room. And as you can see, I'm through to here. Nothing to worry about. Didn't need to get any of the relics. If you need to get back, if you want to train this and you don't have a emulator state save function like on the Xbox, you can turn into the wolf, and you know, you'll just fall right through. So I guess the first thing to cover is that before you equip your heart refresh to try and do this, you should have near full mana. As I said, you're going to need to do between 5 and 7 wing smashes depending on your timing. I highly suggest that when you're first learning this, try and figure out what timing you need in order to get the appropriate number of wing smashes. If you do too many, you can end up with some really terrible results. You'll fall back into the room. If you do too few, then you'll either fall back into the room or you will get a extended flicker on the save room, which means that you basically have to start mashing jump and the diagonal up and left. But regardless of that, I'm going to try to give you a breakdown using some pictures that I've captured in the game. This is from my own computer, so the pixel count is going to be a little bit off, but that's okay. It's not overly important for what we're trying to show off with this. This trick is actually not nearly as precise as it seems, which is a great benefit to us, obviously. So right here I've captured the first frame, or basically the general overview, I guess you could say, of this area. What we're going to use is we're going to use some visual cues in the background to line ourselves up with, as we do with many tricks. So this is the general area, and these are our visual cues. You'll notice that in the background there's a marble pillar, a marble column, and it has kind of grooves inside of it. Some embellishments that are supposed to show depth in the game. You also see that there are these square or concentric square bricks beneath our feet. These two particular things are the things that we're going to be looking at in order to find out where to stand when we're going to start the trick, and to see if we actually hit the trick afterward. Kind of highlighted them out there. Now this is all well and good, but we're actually looking for something much more specific than just these two things. Now, if you look at the grooves in the pillar, the second darkened portion on it, basically the second groove in the pillar, is the one that I like to use as a point of reference for where I should be lining up Alucard's head in this stance. Not when he's standing straight up or anything, but this particular stance. For the brick beneath his feet, once we've hit the heart refresh, we can do a check to see if we've actually hit the correct positioning for the glitch or if we're going to be off. And what I use for that is this line right here. Is basically the outside square lines. So I'll kind of show those off. So you can see that the second line in the background on the pillar I've highlighted in orange. And I've highlighted the two lines that I'm looking at for when I'm trying to see if I position correctly for the glitch in yellow on the square brick. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the highlights, but I'll leave the lines on here. So this is about what your starting position should look like. You'll notice that Alucard's head gets kind of like split by that second line. I'm just turning it on and off here so you guys can kind of see. That's a good indicator that you're kind of positioned in about the right place to be able to do the glitch. This might vary a little bit from person to person. It really depends on how quickly you can press forward and hit the heart refresh if you have a slight delay. But that's the general starting position that I use personally. Now, when you're actually doing the glitch, you're going to want to, you basically tap forward and hit heart refresh immediately. This can be pause buffered, or map buffered, and what I do in order to do that is you basically press forward and press map, and if your screen moved considerably, then you're probably not going to hit it. If it didn't, then you can hold forward and the heart refresh button, and press the map button again, and that'll basically make you move a pixel forward and use heart refresh immediately, which can be a nice way to set it up if you're worried about missing it. Now, see, there's the original position, just showing it off. There's the position that you should be starting in before you do the heart refresh. Now here's an example of the ending position if you manage to get the heart refresh off correctly. Okay, now the things I want to point out here is, again, this is basically you would have the heart refresh screen up and you'd be able to see him in this stance. Okay, if in this stance his toe is between the two yellow lines near his feet, it's a good indication that you've hit the trick successfully. At that point, you basically be holding backdash during the heart refresh as you do with all the RSL tricks. And, you know, your positioning would be good on it. If you find, though, that your toe is closer to the left, like on the indentation, or on the black line, it's really questionable if you're going to be able to get on. I feel like sometimes I've hit it when I'm on the black line, but that might be due to my skewed graphics on my emulator. So just know that this is a pretty good indicator, is if you're between those two yellow lines. If you're doing this from the setup that I'm going to show you, this is about what you're looking for. I really don't know a way that I would explain that you're in the correct positioning. But the setup is the setup. It's going to be very consistent as to where you're positioned. So let's kind of go over one more time in game what you're looking for. Okay. So as I mentioned in the background, I'm looking to see the second groove in the pillar. That looks about good. And I'd basically either be hitting forward and heart refresh or forward and map to map buffer it. So I'm going to actually try to map buffer it a little bit. And if you screw up the map buffer, that's the nice thing. A heart refresh takes a long time to go off, so I mean, if you fail it, you're costing yourself a lot of time. That looks good. Right now I'm holding backdash as I'm heart refreshing. I backdash out. I make sure to run against this section to align my subpixels. Then I jump up, in, and turn into the bat. Okay, I'm going to purposely go too far with my wing smashes. I'm going to do too many, hopefully. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See, 7's too many for me. Oh, 7 got in that time. So, as I mentioned, it's between 5 and 7, so you really got to play around with it. I usually do 6, and 6 works fine for me. I guess I'll show you the setup now in order to get into this. So for the setup, you would push up against this step, do backdash, backdash, make sure both of them are full, and then you notice when you turn into a wolf, you pop up a bit. Okay? Now, when you're popped up in the air, press right, just so that you turn around. And that'll make you turn around in place. Now that you've turned around in place, press left, just tap it, and the wolf will turn around a very specific amount. After that, untransform and try to hit the glitch. And then backdash out of it, as normal. Okay, now I'm going to try to explain how you're supposed to turn into a bat. Now, if you turn into a bat too late, or not at all, you'll just fall into the final guard room. I guess I could show that right now. So if I don't transform at all, oh, or I could just, you know, miss it. My fault. I'm not very good at the setup, but I've seen a lot of people get good results with it. That's not going to be it. That's probably not going to be it either. Let's give it a shot, though. Okay. So, if you fail it, if you don't transform at all, you just fall down into the guys. If you transform too late, sorry, if you transform too early, rather, then you'll end up like that. Transform too late and you're still going to be inside of this room. Okay, so what do you use for your mechanic for timing? For me, in the PlayStation version, I find that I can hold the bat button in the black screen after the save room flashes. So it's going to be black screen, save room, black screen, and then the final guard hallway. And I want to hold it on that second black screen. So, now. And I end up inside of here. If you do too few wing smashes, you can fall out like that. Okay, so once again, I go in, there. It could be a different timing for Xbox. I've heard that it's much stricter in there because you have faster loading rooms, like the black screen in between, so you'll have to play around with that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this is another thing that can happen. Sometimes you get this extended flicker, where it flickers a lot and doesn't put you in the room immediately. To get rid of this, what you do is you hold up left, the diagonal in between, and mash on jump. Okay, and eventually you'll get out. Sometimes it's not that fast, but sometimes it is. You know, you might get lucky. If you do too many wing smashes, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then that happens, and you end up falling inside of the room. So it's important that you find that perfect balance for yourself between that 5 to 7 mark and really play with it, stick with it, see if it works out for you. But that's a basic breakdown of it. As I mentioned, you can use the setup to get into it. You can edge forward into it and just do it, you know, flat out. Or you can use a pause buffering method in order to set it up. There's a lot of ways, and it's not that hard. Just pay attention to the visual cues, give it some tries. And I guarantee you, you'll be able to get at least to the part where you're falling in here. Once you get to this part, then it's all about that timing on the transformation and making sure that you can IWS good. A thing that you can do as well if you're scared that you're not that good at IWS, you can actually mist bat, like I'm doing right now. But, you know, that's kind of, it's going to be quite a bit slower, and you're going to have to find a positional cue that you can use in order to set that up, so that you don't go too far. That'll do it for this section of the tutorial for the Relic skip. Make sure to check out the summary video that I've posted for this as well, if you just need a quick refresher course on it. This is TurboDog702 for the Castlevania Symphony of the Night Any% tutorial.